Hello everyone, my name is werewolf. Welcome back to another documentary and also live stream. Today we'll be talking about comparing to the space plane that I noticed. So it's in the title of the live stream. So yeah, in the werewolf space plane. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about what are they, what do they do, and what does my design compare to it? Now, I really barely don't know because I got kind of a bit anxious, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what it does. Supposedly a two-stage rocket, which exactly is the rocket that I've been talking about maybe a while ago. But this time, we're going to try to compare it to the whatever it's called, AstroClipper, versus the werewolf space plane. Now, both of them are almost the exact compared to style. The werewolf space plane has an aerospike engine once it has hit second stage. The first engine of the drone, nicknamed the drone on my design, uses a SR-71 Blackbird engines. Instead of two of them, there are four of them, which that sounds crazy, but they are very useful to reach high altitudes. Now, I really don't know much about the other one that was actually proposed, but clearly, if somebody actually designed this and actually did it, that means that my design is actually 100% possibly, or 99%, or at least 90% accurate. And it was right. For my designs and not being an engineer, not being anything, I'm pretty surprised of basically designing a space plane only using just that. Although it is actually supposed to the same size and goes together. This time that space plane goes together. Now if you look at the screenshots or some of them, especially what Foster described, actually I think Foster. So basically it's exactly what the werewolf space plane is supposed to be. And this is actually, I propose this fully reusable space plane that operates officially, frequently, global safety and flexibility. Unless a currently available technology, the function and cost of single, that's exactly what my werewolf space plane is, sort of. Oh, by the way, I think I do see a cockpit, but my werewolf space plane is actually a bit more, more wide. It's all wide from all the hull. Now, if you looked at early of channels that the werewolf space plane. Now, if I get to Kerbal, I would definitely show you the werewolf space plane. But every time I load the ship, it crashes the entire game, including Steam. So I can't possibly show you the latest update werewolf space plane. I removed those big giant engines to replace them with very small 4 engines. Now I could put it on separate rockets, but in Kerbal, it's much more better for me to build, and it's all easier. Super Rockets 2 is the engines and stuff. I suggest you play it because it does actually have real fuels, real cool camera angles, better than Kerbal. And it actually has the only rocket that actually, once it is in the atmosphere, it spreads out once you reach, and that's out in the atmosphere to vacuum. That's realistic. That is the real rocket. Jet engines sound amazing in there, so they really did a good job on the engines. Sound basically much more louder. They're loud. They're real. Compared to Kerbal, I don't think they don't sound good. They just sound plain. For a squad, it doesn't seem like it's running in place anymore. It's this other company that's Kerbal Space Program 2, which it's supposedly better with Colony, which I'm kind of interested by now. Now, what the video states is that it's the Exodus Space Corps. Actually, okay, so yeah, the AstroClipper, so yeah, it uses it doesn't apparently have lang legs that I supposedly have. Home has a line behind the wing body, stages join separate and flight back to. So yeah, optimize payload capacity in orbit. Oh dear, it's laggy.
Reduces the total mass of the vehicle while still allowing it to take advantage of atmospheric oxygen as 1,000 meters.
So yeah, So mine goes to Mach 4. Once it reaches Mach 4, it should be the most speed, which is going to be pretty fast. Now, my design goes to the moon. Supposedly, it's going to have 2 docking ports if it doesn't make it to the moon. I do have what is called a large SLS fueling tank. Why? Well, what I'm thinking about is putting a huge booster, the SLS, which is a big orange booster. If they, NASA develops it. And what I think is that whole entire rocket is going to be launched in whole using that. And it's going to have maybe a little habitation module, which this thing is going to be a refuel module. Now, the werewolf spaceplane, I do have multiple backups, like a backup for refueling, which is like a cord that attaches to the tank. Or the primary one is 2 dock. Why do I see 2 docking ports? One of them is the refuel docking port. One is the crew transfer docking port. The reason why is because I don't think nobody has created a refuel at this time. But the only reference to refueling a spaceplane, and possibly this spaceplane, is extremely not realistic, as well as, as if you look at Baby Einstein compared to Space Buddies, they're completely different, and they're actually called technically space planes. I personally tried to make it in SIP rockets too, but it seemed like that I was too lazy and just made a too big body, and it didn't work as well. And I think I prefer Kerbal because it makes me more better and try to get the jet engines in place, because I really didn't know what engines should I use. I was preferring nuclear for the first engine because for vacuum, and then jet engines for the atmospheric. It didn't fly, so I gave up on it because it was just too big, too bulky, and it didn't look exactly the Baby Einstein's spaceship. Well, I mean, it could fly theoretically. It definitely could never be built in real life because they would be ridiculous. And since the fact that if it is a spaceplane, it should have able landing legs. Now, that could be a good challenge. So if you guys can try to make this, then that's crazy, especially the spaceplane one, because when I remember when I watched it, it reminds me of Star Wars a little bit, but still, now these days, it really looks really kind of weird when you're like extremely like an elite pilot like me that knows how to fly, especially. And when you look at that, it's just like, what? I mean, I understand it's a little kids movie and it's a long time ago, and we really wanted to go back to the moon, right? That is why. So yeah, the werewolf spaceplane compared to the other one, it seems like that the werewolf spaceplane is actually almost possibly the same size as the other one. So what I think, the aerospike engine, now if it doesn't work, we can always try other rockets, and it's going to be small, not too small. Supposedly, if it does go to an industrial area, such as parties such as, Delta or Boeing, etc., which they can use airplanes to go to the moon. What I'm saying is going to an airport and then flying straight to the moon. Not exactly. You can't fly straight to the moon. We always know that there's such thing as Newton's law of gravity, physics. And it seems like that Tintin's rocket obeyed a lot of physics, and it took almost 15 minutes or more just to get to the moon and back. Now that's crazy. It's supposed to take 3 days depending on your orbit. 3 days is the minimum, I should say, velocity to get there, which the slower you are, the more you might get in orbit easier using less fuel. Or you could use a slower but it take months, which you probably will go around in orbit, blasting your engine for a few seconds, and then keep going, and then blasting, and then get higher, blast. See, the orbit's getting higher. I'm moving the Earth right here, so it gets higher. And then eventually, that's what the India spacecraft did, or the lander. They took a while to get to the moon because they were using just a slow process. However, 3 days duration of the Apollo mission. They were like a direct mission. They literally took 4 or 3 days to reach the moon, and then basically lasted for hours, maybe a little bit of days. I'm really not sure. Just say Apollo 17 went back to Earth, Actually, Apollo 10, actually, they were the pretty fastest. They entered the atmosphere, even if they didn't land, they were not supposed to be. I think it is. They slammed to the Earth's atmosphere at like faster than any spacecraft, a manned spacecraft, I should say, or at least at that time. Now, I always wondered this. If the werewolf spaceplane was actually real, what are the consequences of actually going to the moon and back? Remember, you will have the velocity as the moon if you actually need more velocity. And once you do, you're going to have elliptical orbit, which you may need to use more fuel, such as you're going to have to slow yourself down into an orbit around Earth, which that will waste a lot of fuel. You could just basically, that is the most easiest way to get slowed down for it to resist less heating. Now, the werewolf spaceplane is actually a spaceplane, so what kind of heat shield? Well, it has to be at least cheaper. It could be just made of pure, stainless steel. I really don't know what I should use as material. It could be made out of stainless steel, just like, Elon Musk Starliner, because, yeah, I guess that might be the future spaceplane type of thing, using without heat shield, because technically, you don't need a heat shield. Well, I mean, you could probably use the most ridiculous possible way is use cork. Wood cork. Yes, that's right. Bark. And if you put bark into a thing, you could create a heat shield. Yes, there are such things as wood heat shields, wood spacecraft, you name it, But that probably will look kind of, it might work, but it might be heavy. So technically, it's going to be like a steampunk rocket. This is like the 21st century. We already been through that. Those are like, all of that. What makes me kind of interested is actually somebody did actually make a rocket out of steam, or I should say a steampunk type of thing. However, physics doesn't work. And it wasn't enough velocity and thrust. And all said, it's a rocket. He was riding a rocket and then splat. He only just made it by this much. Just nothing. He just went by it and just blop. Or you could use gunpowder, which gunpowder is actually useful, but it has a low ISP, basically. You could use, but it's very unstable. Unlike liquid fuel rockets, they are stable. They have more thrust than ISP. You could turn them off. Gunpowder is the same thing as a solid rocket booster. You ignite them, I don't think you can turn them off, which it does give out good ISP. However, when you look at the werewolf spaceplane, the attack or AOA, attack of approach, something like that, I really don't get that. It has to be at least not 90 degrees. It has to be 180 degrees above too high to allow it to make it to a steep. Now, I've done this in the Kerbal. I've tested it out. And one time I actually did use the jet engines. I did it just, one time or something. What I did is I try to use as much as possible. And I actually got into a higher orbit. However, I didn't add that much, spoiler alert, I didn't add that much fuel to the werewolf spaceplane. So technically, it's not realistic as possible. I just kind of too lazy, or I use infinite fuel, then I just get to the moon or mud, then land. But I do sometimes use the fuel as possible just to make it realistic as possible, and then get back to Earth or Kerbin. I have done that multiple times with the two. I actually landed 2 werewolf space planes right next to each other, and that was kind of epic. You probably have seen that. So about this magnificent thing, but supposedly it's not supposed to have wings on there. Like I should say y'all, not y'all. Y'all, well, it can't have y'all because of these two things. The AstroClipper, my computer's freaking out. Oh yeah, and whatever, stupid Patreons. I hate them. So yeah, crew. So yeah, it goes to Nano Demo Micro 2024. That's actually almost the same time that my werewolf space plane. And then it will be over tourism. Yeah, that's exactly. This is the same thing as a werewolf spaceplane. I mean, come on, this is why. I mean, somebody must have looked at me because, or if they really thought of it at the same time that I thought of it, which would be extremely crazy. And if this thing, I think this is actually going to be more winning because if this, since I'm going to have to probably, I'm going to have to pick up the pace. You guys need to figure out a way to get me into popularity, or else this thing is going to dominate. It's going to, it's already dominating already. I mean, this famous person, people even has like 34,000 views already, and it's already posted by October 15th. And I only have barely any subscribers, except for last channel, which I had, except it was terminated. And I'm losing if I don't get the werewolf spaceplane. However, it doesn't say anything about going to the moon, but it says over tourism. Shit, it does say a lunar transfer. Well, I mean, oh, come on. Somebody definitely. So, yeah, the werewolf spaceplane, I think they're going to be both the same. They're both going to land on the moon. However, it doesn't seem like it has retrofire. It doesn't have hover engines, or it does. Lunar transfer. It looks like it doesn't land on the moon. Mine lands on the moon. A cargo transfer. Supposedly, I think every time I'm looking at this video, I mean, yeah, it has a cargo bay. Yeah, this thing literally has a cargo bay. This is exactly what possibly the werewolf spaceplane actually looks like, except it would look like the Spirit bomber. Actually, it's it's a bomber. That type of wing, which is a delta wing, which has flat surface and oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was yeah. It seems like that with that type of spaceplane. I mean, there's multiple space planes out there that have almost the same guarantee and all sorts of gizmos and all sorts of that. And, I mean, this thing, oh, God. I'm going to see, okay. So yeah, my design lands on the moon. Now, I don't understand what is the dealio of why it doesn't look like it has. That's kind of cool. These are some cool art from in the past. That's kind of cool. Of course, we got the Venture Star, which is a massive spaceplane, which I do have a model of, but oh yeah, and of course that, and then you got Starliner, oh, I get it. It's that type of resolution. It's 260p. No wonder it's laggy like hell on my screen. So we got the Starliner. We got Skylon. That's another spaceplane that is possibly awesome. I was thinking about using, which is called the whale spaceplane, which is basically almost like Skylon, but I kind of scrapped it because I mean, it looks supposedly a yeah, it's ridiculous. It's you probably never and then you got AstroClipper. I mean, and then you got the werewolf space, but actually it's werewolf spaceplane and then AstroClipper. That's exactly what the timeline is, because I did not see this at all. And I knew this was going to happen because I knew this design is eventually going to come out. And if I'm right, if I'm the original one, that's going to be crazy. If I thought of this before they even knew about this, who's going to be right? Who's going to have the first? I mean, this probably will be a future concept, which, I mean, it's early development. It's going to be eventually going to have retrofire. And, just like if you win an orbit or 2016, fly a spaceplane, SSTO, but we're not that. We're using a two-stage, which, of course, pushing the rocket. They push the rocket and then stage it. I mean, that's exactly the concept. Now, thankfully, I had this werewolf spaceplane concept in the past. So this was before 2019 and, of course, from 2017. So I'm pretty good. If this channel keeps up, I should be okay as long as I can have the original proof that I had this design before. Maybe they can finally understand that I made this design even before, possibly. which, you know, I do have Twitter, which means if I have Twitter, that means I've been talking about the werewolf spaceplane about a long time, and it's just a bit, I should say, who is going to have the best? Now, yeah, here are the advantages. What I see right now is that there's no landing legs. I don't know how is it going to land. The werewolf spaceplane on my design has very long landing legs, has a very good stubby area, no type of, well, this type of turn. Compared to this, the werewolf spaceplane is better off the best, as well as landing on the moon. And yeah, I mean, of course, it's going to use big jet engine. It's not. I don't think it's going to use that and that. And it seems like that. It looks like it. I mean, hang on a second. But come on, look of it. It looks like provide passenger safety, smoother departure than more dynamic launch vertical rockets. It's exact. Yeah, engine provides, you know, that and that. You get that. Yeah, then you get. I mean, yeah, it's just. I mean, it's like wow. It's just wow. It's just kind of crazy. But what's that part for? I mean, yep. Stage a fuel line, jet engines, advanced materials. Of course, yeah, the werewolf spaceplane on my design does have some auto landing, which, you know, it's gonna. I mean, yeah, it looks like. I mean, it doesn't look like. I mean, there's multiple engines on the back, which makes sense. But it seems like that this has a more type of heat shield than anything else. However, it looks like it might be more actually kind of a bit better than werewolf spaceplane, as well as aerodynamic. Okay, here's a good diagram. Actually, don't mute it. Okay, so yeah. Orbital landing any spaceport, which, you know, yeah. Booster landing, autonomous booster landing, which, yeah, that'd be called the drone. Then, of course, you got this diagram. So horizontal takeoff, powered with jet engines, werewolf spaceplane, jet engine shutoff. Yeah, about like Mach 1. Actually, mine is Mach altitude of 6,000 feet. Actually, I really didn't know where I was going to stage it, but it's pretty much probably lower than that as the werewolf spaceplane concept as me. So it has to be. It's only drone only has just jets only. It's only we use jet fuel or boron gas to start up the engines. Then it was staged, and it has little solid rocket boosters for it to separate faster. Then you have the werewolf space that it goes out. I mean, this concept looks exactly okay. So there's low Earth orbit. We got the atmosphere, I believe. Separation of a Mach 8, which is about actually my werewolf space gets faster. It will reach at least 100 knots at about maybe 5 minutes. Actually, that's kind of slow, but yeah, we get it. Mine's actually gonna go faster, and it's gonna get up there as fast as it can, which is gonna be a problem, but it should be stable. Orbiter operation altitude, then the booster return and route of horizontal land. I mean, this exactly is the diagram that I had in mind for a while, and I'm so like, I think I'm going to use this diagram for the same diagram just because it exactly is the werewolf spaceplane using a aerospike engine. Now, I mean, yes, let's just try to prove that I had this idea. If I can find the, I have showed you guys before. But I think I should show you just the best of it. Maybe not. The werewolf spaceplane is a humongous, that actually big. But yeah, this exactly is like what it's gonna do. It's gonna go back down, land as like a normal airplane, and then yeah, flexibility, operate like yeah. I mean, this is like safe return of high. You know, I mean, seriously, this is like amazing. This is crazy. Ooh, what's that? What is that? So yeah, if you go on my spaceplane playlist, you should definitely see me on there, and it's by oldest to newest. But I think yeah, introducing the moon. Yeah, here we go. Awesome. type of things. And yeah. So yeah, I mean, if we get this thing to work, I mean, it has worked in civilization. However, physics, I mean, it's not bad. Plans for a 2-stage, fully reusable. But no, I had the first. Yeah, you will never understand. So yeah, just give me a moment. So yeah, it's simple. As streamed as it is, it's extremely simple. And yeah, we get the that thing. I mean, yeah, L1011 launcher run. That's kind of cool. So yeah, I think. So yeah, that one is going to be space tourism, which my other one is going to be space tourism. However, it's going to land on the moon. Now, if they don't design hover engines, then I should be okay. And once it lands on the moon, it's going to be, have, the wheels are going to be, they're going to have motors and they're going to move around. Also, the werewolf space plane will have solar panels and radiators. So the other one doesn't have any. So I thought of this early about technology to allow that power and to radiate the power, which means to radiate the heat. So yeah. Also, I was thinking about using some type of boiling in the boiler room inside the wings, but I don't think that's going to work out to make sure that uses heat to boil the water. I don't know. So technically, yes, it's just is amazing of how this thing. I think this type of spaceplane design is going to be very popular, especially when it gets to be like 1, 2, and then there's going to be 3. Werewolf spaceplane. I am the original one. This is possibly because original one I thought about a while ago. I'm pretty sure that I'm the original design. So. And I had a feeling that somebody's going to have that same design and about thought of it. Unless if I probably did see some sources in the past. But I think that this pushing this spacecraft, this, detaching, pushing it. Yeah, technically I should call it pushing spaceplane as well as that tech day. So yeah, anybody that has the design type of thing, 2-stage rocket, probably will be called pushing spaceplane. Pushing space planes, which that's a pushing space plane. This one is, yeah. So, yeah. There's going to be multiple of them because of different characteristics. Unmanned, manned, etc. Exploration, you name it. So the world of spaceplane is just the start. We are a human race that's designing space planes of about reusability. You got vertical rockets. Now, if the world of spaceplane has been overrun by this spaceplane, you will have a backup, which is called the Dreamer Junior. I call it that way because it's supposedly a spaceplane that will be launched on a big rocket and be taken to Mars to get a soil sample from the Mars 2020 rover, if it does get there, makes it, use an arm and grab it and then take it back to home, which will dock to the International Space Station to check it out. Then it will land back to Earth, and then you got your first ever Mars soil return. There you go. That's a backup plan. Now, that doesn't work out right. Somebody has designed the lander for that. That's okay. It's still fun. The spaceplane will be reusable. The werewolf spaceplane is reusable. But the werewolf spaceplane is going to be used on public airports, which means it's going to be used on any airport, not just a spaceport, airport, spaceports, airports, you name it. And it's going to be launched maybe in some Air Force bases, such as which maybe the nearest Air Force base around here is Scott Air Force Base. That one probably will be one of the ones to make sure that the werewolf spaceplane is suitable for landing privately for private companies. Especially if this design, I want this design to be for partners, such as because its space is becoming a tourist attraction. I think what we need to do is to help each other, not compete each other. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help people to get there to what they need to get to the moon. Okay, let's talk about not going to Mars until we figure out the colony and stuff on the moon, because I think that's a good start. It's the closest we'll ever get to have low gravity and stuff, but without an atmosphere. So yeah, werewolf spaceplane. Why would you have a spaceplane on the moon? Because there's no atmosphere, and it's, of course, it's reusability to get into a, to fly and glide. So technically, with the aerospike engines, it's probably able to use its engines in flight to adjust its, attack, AOA, attack on, attack. Yeah. Now, if this is possibly, you think the werewolf spaceplane isn't good looking because you don't know what the final build is, I don't think it's going to look like the one that you're going to see, the AstroClipper. So yeah, I'm going to try to see if I can find it. Of course, the design that I made didn't want to be the design I wanted made it. It will look probably like a sleekish design. Just exactly what it is. Without these two wings, it's going to have in the between them, or none, because technically you just use air brakes for moving around, because you can use a air brake over here to brake. That will cause the craft to do this. Brake over here. You could do this, or brake like this to slow down. I mean, that's the same concept as one of the airplanes that do for the military, which is, I think, it's the most expensive airplane in the world because of how secret it is. We don't know what the cockpit is inside, but all we know is that the shape of the stealth bomber is extremely sleekish. It's been used in multiple movies, and that is going to be the design and of how black it is. But I think to make it more attractive, I think it's not just going to be black, painted to reduce heat. It is also going to have a freaking wolf on the top to, because that's going to be the less heat, so it won't get damaged. So we don't have to repaint it, which we may need to repaint over often, because which is called, basically is soot. I think that's what it's called. Will build up on the spaceplane when it re-enters the atmosphere. It's going to get dirty. It's going to get very dirty, after some maybe years. Just like the space shuttle, if you look at it, it's really kind of dirty and kind of worn off, especially if you look at one of the return vehicles, SpaceX Dragon vehicle. It is really rusted and stuff. So it's probably going to be yellowified and all that stuff. And it has to be repainted every probably 2 maybe months, depending on it, or maybe at least every 2 missions of flight, repainted. And if anybody so they can have their own logo on it, they can also add their own logo on it, which will probably be very big and bright to show off their logo. But if it's just a werewolf spaceplane without any partners, it's just going to have a wolf on it, or it's going to be all black, or with maybe stripes, or just make it colorful for, make it, maybe badass, I should say. Kind of, this hence the name. And imagine with those beautiful colors would definitely stand out on the moon's surface, because those space planes, if it's daytime, it's going to reflect really much. Big, giant werewolf face or something, like a wolf-like. Let's just say wolf-like, because probably of you might think of a werewolf that doesn't look like a wolf. So we're going to say type of wolf, maybe a timber wolf with beautiful, beautiful brownish colors, and possibly with actually a black wolf, which will probably be very resistant to the heat with detail, which means that, to minimize heat. And if it was white, it reduces heat or something like that. And we don't want the heat. We don't want heat on the spaceplane, or else that will damage. That is why, in case if we paint it, we will have radiators ready to radiate the heat, so they can compensate for this, which it can repaint it multiple times with multiple stages, multiple purposes. to make it more, I mean, when you want your space plane or your spacecraft, you want it beautiful, especially when you need it like a launching vehicle, like a fairing. And especially when you have it bright with really good colors, maybe like yellow. And especially, I probably want my own space plane, which will be a yellow werewolf, which will probably actually kind of cool. In the sense that, I designed it and they should be, in my, that, I mean, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. So yeah, compared to that, it looks kind of dull right now, but it might change just like my design. But I didn't actually, I tried putting it to the public, but it seems like I'm so not as public as you think. It's going to take a while until somebody smart that will catch it and they will talk to me about it. Unless I'm not too old enough. I am like 18 right now. I don't think I'm too old enough to become like a famous person. So that is a problem. And it's really sad about what I designed is becoming something else that's much bigger. Just that thing. I mean, so yeah, two space planes could be competing to see what is or what is not. And what really is, I think color will stand out. Colored space plane to stand out with detail, with art on it, will make a good part of, I should say, space exploration, a good part of how amazing it is and how amazing it is. Now, I think that this is a pretty long documentary about this two space planes that might become real life space plane. Werewolf space plane versus the AstroClipper. We'll see what is the best space plane to get to the moon and land. We got landing on the moon. We got going to the moon. Yeah. But first of all, we're going to do the test. The werewolf spaceplane will first be tested just like the space shuttle, except instead, we'll do this like type of thing on the Boeing 747. Then it will be tested with two stages later on, which will be called Demo 1, which means we will use all the parts and do a flyby to the moon, or at least I should say, high assist, which means it's going to go up in the atmosphere, 17,000 miles per hour. Then it's going to rotate backwards and fly back to Earth to demo it. Then it will land on the runway. Then Demo 2, which will demonstrate to go the flyby of the moon to see if we can, go to the moon. And then Demo 3, which will be to see if we can get near the surface to the moon. And then this will be Werewolf Spaceplane Exploration 1, which just means will be the final Apollo 11 style thing, which will be the final build for the first manned mission landing on the moon in the year 2030, at least 2030. It's just gonna be, if it doesn't make it, then it's gonna be 2040. It has to be at least before they make this space plane to reach the final build, which I'm gonna have to go a lot of obstacles just to get this thing. Oh boy, it's gonna be a whole lot of excitement of, having the best. And of course, we do have one that will be possibly in the meantime, which will probably be Elon Musk to be the first to land without using a space plane. We got a lot of competing. We got me and Elon Musk. But of course, I think he's going to be the first because he's already got a head start. He already has it built. He had it built. We see it. We've seen it launch. We have it built. Actually, they made it more realistic, which I kind of like that. A lot of people, like Everyday Astronaut, did actually like the, I should say, 3 landing legs. I mean, why would they even test it with 3 landing legs even before when it was built, which makes no sense. I mean, yeah. I mean, okay. I mean, they're going to be like for air brake, but yeah. Everyday Astronaut, he does try to see what's going to be in the future. And I am not good. He's really good at better explanation, especially Scott Manley. But I think Scott Manley really isn't that intuitive of, companies. But I'm not going to say anything better because he's really good. So I guess I really don't know what's going on. But I know that Everyday Astronaut loves how rockets are made. So he always wants to figure out what is new. He literally goes in front of literally Elon Musk, with, of course, copyright things, and literally talks to Elon Musk in that presentation, also with copyright. And, and that stuff, and copyright, which makes no sense. So, yeah. And what did I do? Sit here and play on the computer, which just is ridiculous. Am I possibly the only but however, whoever made that spaceplane, which will probably be a bunch of people, and if it's just me that made this spaceplane, without, with all this people just, figuring out how to make it perfect. I think this is probably will be very easy because I think I made this up and did it into Kerbal, and the fact that it worked and the fact that it actually is still going. If it didn't work, I would definitely scrap the werewolf space plane. I would have moved on to a different space plane or something, but still it worked. It flew. It went to the moon. I put it to the moon. It worked. And that made a change to how we, and me too, how to get things. You see this? This is NASA. That means I want to see what happens. But of course, NASA needs to figure out I really don't. If NASA tries to use a 2-stage landing, just like your Apollo missions, that means you're going to put junk on the surface. But they did. I think they did finally, which made me kind of happy because they figured out why would we put a 2-stage. Remember in those early days in 2009, remember those old animations that it demonstrated about before the Obama thing destroyed it, which I think, we would have been on the moon. A flat moon people would think that we never been on the moon. Ha! But of course, Obama just, he get rid of it because I think it didn't wear our needs because. And then there's people out there complaining about the moon landings were fake because that were the only mission right today is because I'm streaming right now. But we say we go to the moon first? No. Negatory. We're not going to the moon. We are going to the moon for our exploration to do testing. And by the way, I always wanted to make sure where are the werewolf space planes going to land. They will have their designated landing sites, and they will also land right next to each other, and they will be a base, which will be launched by SLS, which will be called this communication station. Will be a habitation base, which will be the moon base 1 or 2 if somebody makes it up. And this is going to have their own thing. It's going to be added over time by the years. Eventually, in 2040, that's the time when we kickstart. That means that the werewolf space will become public, and that means anybody like you that can join the werewolf space exploration to a space landing tourism on the surface of the moon. That means we're going to have to relaunch a new type of a lander, which will be the first, which will be remodeling the base to be a communication with a huge, extremely tall antenna, which will be a communication center, which will be the base. And there will be space tourism base, like the Moon Village concept from Issei. They can join the party, So yeah, we will have all sorts of moon bases, a moon village. We will have a moon colony. And, we'll have happily after, But until the werewolf space plane will decommission in the year 2100, which I have explained before. So that will be the deadline. Werewolf space plane will have to be canceled immediately. Once they return that means all werewolf space planes must shut down and be recycled. Most of them will have to be on display and will have to be finished because at that time we will already have warp technology. Too bad if we didn't, because they should have told us about it. I mean, I think we already designed the warp technology, but the United States Air Force doesn't want to tell us because people out there might use it as, terrorism, bad things, you got evil stuff. And, and it's going to, until we figure out, a way to everybody's going to be nice and everybody's going to be, shaking hands. I guess we could use that. But I think because we're in a situation right now that I don't think it's going to happen for a long time. Maybe at least the year 2022, which 2222, that is just more decades. I wouldn't be here. That would be 1,000 years later. Actually, yeah, I think 100, maybe 100 years. 1,000 years is the year 300 or 3,000. So yeah, every 3,000. So it means if you say 1,000 years ago, that's like 1,000 years ago, which we only been on this earth for a very short amount of time. The dinosaurs been here for about 1 million years, for like, I don't know, something years. And then, of course, the big, asteroid came over and slammed to the surface on the earth and made that big, big crater around that, which we found already, which for the longest time we really didn't know because we thought, what happened to them? We thought it was a virus. I mean, yeah, we get the idea. So I guess, military doesn't work anything else, because what I think is the X-37B space plane has warp technology that they use in some of the missions, because they're all classified almost. And when I think that they tested to see warp technology worked using lasers were actually a real thing. Oh, good note. Well, I guess we have to end here. So yeah, yeah, I mean, that's it. So that's it.